Take it
Got
away,
it.
Leanne.
Click the button. Hi, everybody. I'm Leanne Ketty. I'm an assistant professor at the Sprott School of Business at Carleton University and one of the team members for Accounting for Impact. So we want to welcome you to our first, I'd say, event of the season. We did have our launch event, of course, but this is our more practical event. And we're going to talk all about social media today. So specifically Twitter and LinkedIn. And we're going to walk you through some hopefully really practical tips to get started. I do want to, before we dive in completely, run a poll. We just want to get a sense of how you've been using Twitter or LinkedIn already, or if you've been using it. And if you haven't, that's totally fine too. But that'll help us tailor a little bit of what we're going to talk about, how quickly or slowly to go through different areas. So I'm going to launch the poll. You should see it coming up. It's always fascinating to watch the little percentages.
It's like use is a broad word. Is do you check it or do you post it? You know.
Yes, Joel's commented, is hourly not an option?
I'm checking every minute, so minutely.
We'll call that really frequent use. All right, I think it's slowing down, would you say? Let's see. Oh, we've still got some participation. A couple more people. Let's see. I want to make sure everybody has a chance to give us some feedback. So far, it looks like most people do already have a Twitter profile, but about a quarter of people don't. Daily, weekly, monthly, less frequently, never used it. LinkedIn, again, slightly higher on the LinkedIn profiles, but still some who haven't. So I think we'll be able to walk through some of that as well. And again, various levels of usage. So there we go. Great, thank you guys for that. That's really helpful, I think, to help us know where to spend our time on some of these elements. We want to make sure it's really useful for you. Oh, there we go. Now we're sharing. Okay, I'm going to share my screen. I'm going to stop sharing that one. So we're going to have our little welcome we just did. I'm going to talk to you all about Twitter. We're going to have some time for Q&A. We're going to take a little break in the middle just so everybody can stand up and stretch their legs. And then we'll pass it over to Erica, who's going to talk to you all about LinkedIn. Again, some Q&A, and then a wrap up at the end. And feel free to ask questions throughout as well. You don't have to wait until the end for sure. So I'm going to go through just a few slides describing some things, and then I'm going to dive right into actually showing you Twitter. But I find it's a really amazing platform for me that's allowed me to help share my work, share other people's work, read articles and share things that I'm interested in, meet and connect with other people who are also interested in those types of things. And particularly during the pandemic, I think it's allowed me to connect with a lot of really interesting people around the world, and probably a lot of people I may not have had the opportunity to connect with if I just was thinking about traditional ways of connecting as academics. So through conferences, for example. So this has been a really nice tool for me to use to connect with people. You can use it for those of you who haven't perhaps tried it before. There's a website you can go to, and we have the link there. Or, as I think a lot of us do these days, you can have the app on your phone. When you're actually using it, you are limited in terms of how much you can say. And this is one of the differences between Twitter and, say, other social media apps. So you have 280 characters. Now, we're going to go through some hashtags as well and how to use these, when to use these. And we do have a hashtag for today's event that I'm going to show you a little bit later in an actual tweet. But this is it here. So if you're already using Twitter or want to practice while we go, feel free to add that to your tweets, and we'll be able to see those as they come up. So the first thing to think about is, how do I set up a profile? And before you dive in and actually go to the website and do that, there are some things to think about. So when you set up your profile, you want to first ask yourself, is this going to be solely a professional account? Like, are you only going to use this, let's say, for academic stuff? Or are you going to mix both academic and personal, work and personal, or is it going to be a personal account? Different people have different takes on how they like to use it. Personally, I tend to use Twitter for my professional stuff. I don't really share a lot of personal stuff on there, but it's really up to you. There's no right or wrong. It's just whatever you feel most comfortable with. But thinking about that before you go to sign up for a profile can help, or if you've already set one up, if you want to add a second one, that's also an option. Because you might want to think about a different username, right? Like Prof. Leanne Keddy or just Leanne Keddy. Thinking as well about your profile picture and your cover photo. What is it that you want to communicate about yourself to the world? These are public profiles, so a little bit different if you're used to things like Facebook. Anybody can search your profile, can see it. So you want to think about what is the image and the sort of look that you want to convey to the world for both your photo, your picture for yourself, as well as your cover photo. And then there's a section that you get to write a little bit about yourself. So what do you want people to read about you in your profile? What is it that you want to be known for? As you start sharing tweets, people will start clicking on your profile to see, well, who is this person and what are they all about? And that's your chance, your little blurb, to let them know a little bit about you. So you might want to put things in like your research, what you're passionate about, your university affiliation, for example. Oftentimes people will also include a little disclaimer to say, these are my personal views. I think there's some debate about whether it's useful or not. I have it in mind. Again, I think that's a choice you can make. There's some really cool features, I think, that are useful in Twitter, and I'm going to show you those in a moment. But I just wanted to highlight them so that you have it in your mind. One is bookmarking. I use this one a lot, and it's basically just saving items for future use. Scheduling your tweets, which is really handy. You may have a few things you want to put out there, but not all at once, so you can actually schedule them in advance, and you don't need any special tools for that. It's built right in. And then there's really cool lists that are around. So you can sign up, basically follow lists, and that will have different people following different topics or trends, things you might be interested in. So let's go to Twitter. The first thing I'm going to show you, for those of you who don't have a profile just yet, is how to actually sign up for a Twitter handle, a Twitter profile. You're going to go to the website, and you can do this along with us, or you can just watch and listen and do it later. And you'll see you have some various options here. I'm going to sign up today with an email account that I set up just for this event. So I'm calling it May 4th AFI event at gmail.com. I will put in my phone number. So there you go. Y'all have my number now. Give me a call. And we will just pick a year. We'll pretend I'm really young. There we go. Okay, so they're going to send me a text just to verify. I'm going to receive that text. Oh, hold on. And of course, set a password. So you don't want your account to get hacked. Try to pick something that is unique, as we are bound to do. Okay, and that's it. I mean, it actually is pretty easy to set up. Now we talked about the profile pic. So you do want to pick something that you have on hand, a headshot perhaps. I have some already ready here. You can recenter it, you can zoom in, you can kind of make it how you want. And again, apply. And this is the spot for the bio. So I'm just going to indicate I'm a sustainability accounting researcher, passionate about the planet and people. You can also hashtag some of these, and that just makes it a bit more searchable when people are looking for things. But you don't have to, you can just leave it as you wish. Here's my username. So we talked a little bit about what we want that to be. Again, this is just for today's purposes. And then it's going to ask you, well, what are some things you might be interested in seeing? So they've got lots of different options. I'm going to just scroll down. I'm in business, so I might say business news. There's some accounting. And of course, they want me to follow some different places. We'll just pick the Beaverton. The tweets are public, and you do have this choice of making it visible only to your followers or not. If you want to connect with people around the world, I think you can just leave them public. But if you're looking at a more personal experience, of course, you can change that. So that's it. That's really setting up the profile. I'm going to flip back. Any questions on that? I see some stuff coming up. Okay, nothing specific there. Good. Okay, everybody looks good so far. So I mentioned a few things that are pretty cool about using Twitter, things that I like to use. So I wanted to show you those. This is obviously a more developed profile because I've been using this for a few years. But I, like probably some of you, you'll see I joined back in 2013. I did not use it right away. I really started using it about 4 years ago. You can pin tweets. So I like to pin, let's say, a latest paper or something that is important to me. And this is something that when people click on your profile, this is what they're going to see. So you can make it something that's sort of representative of you. And that's an option for any of the tweets that you have. The other thing I really like is as I go through other people's tweets and I'm reading through and scrolling through social media, I might share things. So if I, let's say, go back to, sorry, I might keep things in my bookmark. And that's this little button in here. Now I've lost it. There we go. There's a bookmark component. So you can bookmark this and it will end up right over here. So there might be an article you want to read later, but you just don't have time at the moment. So that happens to me all the time. I saved this article because I thought, oh, I really do want to read it, but I just don't have the time at the moment. So you can save that. That'll land in your bookmarks. And then you can always reshare that later. And to reshare it, I always advise reading the articles first in full before resharing anything. It's this little retweet button. Okay, so it kind of looks like a little square with some arrows. And you have a couple of options. You can retweet. Now see, it knows I haven't read the article yet, so it's giving me a warning. You can retweet it just as it is without adding any comments. And that's a great technique if you're just trying to boost somebody else's message. Maybe they're trying to share an event and you want to help bring that to your followers. That's a great time to use a retweet. Or what I tend to do more often with these articles is a quote tweet. And as soon as you do the quote tweet, it's going to give you the option to add some comments. And that's always a great thing to do. That really increases engagement. You might have taken something away from that article that you thought was really important. So adding your thoughts will help other people see, well, why should I read that article? Or what does she think is so interesting about that? So giving a little bit of a take on it is a great way to share a little bit of your knowledge with others. I also mentioned lists. And lists are great ways, especially when you're starting out, to find and connect with other people who are interested in similar things like you. So I have a bunch of lists on here. I'll just click on this one. This one is a list of accounting researchers. And so you may have noticed you can also discover new lists, and it'll give you suggestions depending on what you've indicated you're interested in, perhaps hashtags that you've used. But in here, you can find there's a whole group of members already there, sort of curated for you. And you can look through the list, you can see what they're sharing, you can follow different people. So it's a nice way, especially when you're getting started on Twitter, to try to connect with people with similar interests. Now, I do want to come back here. You'll notice you have notifications, and that just tells you either somebody has mentioned you in a tweet, somebody likes something, and that's another way to get engaged. If somebody's trying to talk to you through Twitter, definitely talk back unless it's a troll. So we'll talk a little bit further about trolls. I do want to show you how to actually create a tweet. So we're going to have, let's say, great turnout today for our media event with @ Okay, there's a couple of things I want to show you here. So number one, I'm going to use our social media hashtag. And when you do that, other people that search that hashtag can find it. So it's one of the ways you can keep a conversation going about different topics. The other thing I've done is I've put in a hashtag here, and the hashtag again makes it a little bit more searchable, but you'll notice that I've capitalized both the S and the M, and that's for accessibility. It also makes it easier to read, but it helps for people that use screen readers specifically to break up the words so that they're able to read that a little bit more clearly. There's another feature you can use, well, lots of features down here, but this one can give you little GIFs. So anytime you add a picture or a photo, it definitely draws more attention to the tweet. I mean, this one's just for fun today, but if there's something that you're trying to get across, sometimes adding a picture or a video can be really helpful to do that. And then the last thing I will show you is my other favorite feature, which is this scheduling feature. So if you click here, this is going to give me the option to schedule it for a little bit later. So you might want to reserve some time. I maybe spend 15 minutes a day doing some of the formal stuff. I certainly scroll quite a bit, or I'm reading other articles, not necessarily for social media, but it doesn't have to take a lot of time. But you may find a few things that you want to share, and instead of just sort of sharing them all at once, you may decide, well, I'd like to share maybe one today, one tomorrow, a couple of interesting articles. So you can select your timing. I'm going to pick today at 9:30. And then I confirm and I schedule. So that won't go out just yet. Nobody's going to see it, but at 9:30, it should go out to the public. Okay, I'm just checking into our chat. Good. Any other questions so far? I think we're just at about time. It's very, very quick, very fast paced. I do want to leave time for questions, but I'll come back to some best practices while we wait for those. So a few things to keep in mind: keep it short, add the visuals, like I said. There are also options to run polls, but I will fully admit I've never done that in Twitter, but that is in there as well. Share your launches, your work. I mean, we're interested, right? One of the reasons I'm on here is because I'm really interested to hear what other people are doing. And these are just tips from Twitter itself. So some of these are more businessy, I would say, but they can apply to what we're doing. I mentioned accessibility, right? And so there's a link here if you want to read more about how to make your tweets a bit more accessible for people. And then some smaller details, but if you're tagging somebody in it, a university, an institution, a school, a person, if you start your sentence with this is just a little sort of nuance feature of Twitter. If you don't put a little period in front of here, it basically makes it less visible. So as long as the name is somewhere in the middle of the sentence, you're fine. But if you're starting it with that tag, Twitter thinks you're trying to send basically a private message, and so it won't make it public. So if you do want it public, just make sure you add a little dot there. And these slides will all be shared with you as well. Some things to remember: social media is forever, so craft your words carefully as you mean them. It will be out there as long as we exist. Don't mind the trolls. No matter what you say, somebody's not going to be happy about it. If it's legitimate engagement, that's fantastic, and you can talk to them about it. But if they're just trolling for the sake of trolling, my advice is don't bother engaging with them. And you don't always have to share articles to engage. You can also like somebody's post, right? Just put a little heart there. Retweet somebody's post, share your own work, share other events that you're interested in, but make sure you read the stuff first. It doesn't have to take a lot of time. Like I said, maybe 15 minutes a day. And it's stuff I'm kind of already doing. I'm already reading stuff, right? So if I read something and I think it's something other people would find interesting, then I'll share it. We'll open it up for questions, but there's also analytics, which I can show you if you're interested, that can track how many people are engaging with your tweets, how many people are seeing it. As an accountant, I certainly love performance measurement information. It's not for everyone, and these metrics will fluctuate. So, you're going to have really high numbers, sometimes really low numbers, and don't feel like you have to compare with other people, because a lot of it is dependent upon what's happening in the media, what's happening in the world around you, how niche your area is or not. So there's a lot to think about. Okay, I'm going to stop sharing and see if that whirlwind tour of Twitter has generated any questions. Ask me anything.
I'll break the ice. And if anyone wants to unmute themselves, raise their hand, go ahead, I'll break the ice. So Leanne, one of the features that I also have used in Twitter is direct messaging or DMs. So what's your experience with DMs? Do you leave them open or closed? And what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, great question. I leave them open. Mine is mainly a professional profile, so I'm certainly open to people reaching out to me, and I've had some really, I'd say, nice experiences. Thankfully, nothing creepy so far. With people just reaching out and saying, "Oh, hey, like I saw you shared this, or I saw your work on that, or I'm interested in what you're doing." And so I've been able to connect with people around the world that I don't think I would have otherwise. And not everyone's comfortable having those conversations publicly. So I personally do like to leave it open. Charles, I see you have a question.
Yeah, I was thinking that maybe you could speak to the limited character space we have on Twitter. And so when you're trying to share a little bit longer post, which should be so long, what are your strategies? I've seen screenshots of abstract of papers posted. I've seen multiple pictures of text, which may or not be effective, but I don't know what's your take on that? Because obviously we have to manage the number of characters, which has gone from 140 to 200, I think double. It's still very short, right?
Yeah.
So then even when you start tagging people and hashtagging, that takes space.
Yes.
By the time we tag Caesar accounting for impact, ARL, you already used 50 characters, right? So
Yeah, and there's definitely different ways to get around it. Like you'll see a lot of people shortening their words, right? Instead of with, it's like W/, right? To try to condense it if it's feasible in that space. If you're talking about something like an abstract, then it does become a bit trickier. I'm personally a big fan of threads. Like I really like reading people's threads. So if they have more to say, where I showed you how to create that tweet, there's a little plus button in the right corner. And you can add a chain to the thread. And so you can talk a lot, and it's almost like a little mini article or commentary. So personally, I love reading people's threads, but I think it's also a bit of a personal choice. Like you may not like it, or you may prefer to share the visual. I can't read the abstracts when they're that small. So unless it's, if I can blow it up and then maybe read it, great. But personally, I think I'd rather prefer the person just write out a little bit about like, what am I going to learn in your article? What's the real takeaway for me? And then that would get me intrigued, sort of a Twitter abstract.
Is the thread function, the plus, the different than the comment? Function you
Yes,
made?
it's different
Okay.
than the comment. Yeah, it's quite popular for people doing live tweeting. So I was following some of the stuff. Of course, I'm here in Ottawa with some of the bail hearings that we had recently, and there was different lawyers that were live tweeting stuff, and they would just do it as a thread. So you could just follow it along like a little story, and they would keep adding to that same thing. It doesn't get lost in all of Twitter. I'd say it's a little bit more of maybe an advanced feature, but you can practice, you can try with it. It's good, it's handy. For those of you guys who've used Twitter, what about you? Any tips, tricks that we haven't talked about? Because we want to learn too. Joel.
Yeah, I mean, I use Twitter quite a lot mainly for professional reasons, but also for jokes, I guess. But anyway, I think one of the useful things for Twitter is that when you use the hashtags, you're getting connected to communities and people who you didn't know were in your community. So I think that's also been very useful too. So I think the hashtag feature has been particularly useful in getting connected with and expanding my network. So yeah, I think this has been a really nice way to consolidate my network and understand who's in the field, right? Because especially if you're a junior scholar, you're not really sure about like who's in your field and like who you should be contacting, but the people who engage with you and the people who you engage with through these hashtags and through the comments are, yeah, it's kind of a shortcut or a way to accelerate this process. I found. I wish I'd started sooner.
That's a great tip. And I find the same thing. I start looking through who's using the hashtags and I'm like, oh, I didn't know that person. Okay, let me add them. I want to follow them, see what they're saying. Erica.
I do a lot of research on Bitcoin. And so I have the Bitcoin hashtag in my bio. And I have a lot of people that have added me that way because they've searched for Bitcoin and my name pops up. And it also helps the Twitter algorithm match you with tweets you might like or accounts you might like as well. So I think don't underestimate the use of hashtags. Really, I think it's very helpful.
Yeah, for sure. Ali.
Yeah, one probably thing is that when I retweet, yeah, so I use a lot also to retweet, just not only to create new content, but I noticed that if I add something, because when you retweet, you have two options, right? To add some text or just retweet. But if you add some text, some comments, you get much more picked up, and it adds some flavor also to the retweet. But it's always a trade-off because I feel that it distracts from the other message that you want to retweet. Yeah. So it's a bit of a trade-off, at least for me.
I agree. I think it's one of those things, it's a bit of a balancing act. I find if it's somebody's event, I'll just retweet it, like to boost it. If they're trying to make a comment and I really like what they're saying, I'll just retweet it. If I want to add my voice to it, to an article or even their comment, then I would do the retweet with the quote. But it's a balancing act, right? And I think at the end of the day, play around with it, use it, see who's out there. Try it out. It really is a great feature. I think for me as an early career researcher, I cannot tell you the benefits that I've had. It's really been an amazing way to connect with people around the world that I truly would not have had that chance otherwise. And it's not something they really formally teach you about, I don't think, in your PhD. I was fortunate enough to go through the Public Scholars Program, and they showed us how to use this stuff, just like we're showing you today. So we really hope it's that it's helpful for everybody. Any other questions? I see stuff in the chat. Oh, here we go. Content to tweet. Yeah. Content, I think, comes from a lot of places. I am a readaholic. I read news all the time. Like, I'm just constantly trying to see what's happening around the world. So if I'm reading something in the news that I think is sort of related to my work, I would share that. I have shared journal articles that I've liked. Like, I read this article. I thought it was really interesting. It made me think of something. It's not my work, but it's somebody else's work. And I think it's stimulated some idea or thought. And when I do that, I also try to tag those authors in it so that they know I like their work. I may not be citing it just yet. Maybe it'll end up in a paper someday, but I think it's also a way to say, hey, I think what you've done is really interesting. And, you know, it's made me think about something, and who doesn't want their work to make someone think about something? Charles.
Yeah, I was also thinking that if you can follow people and people follow you, right? But I also have some favorite people that when they tweet, it's automatically notified. I don't know how to call it, like favorite or something like that.
Yeah.
So, you know, for example, if you want to make sure you don't miss a tweet, because I think one of the downsides of Twitter is that there's a feed, but if you are offline for like 4 days, the feed that happened 2 days ago, you may not see them. But if you want to make sure you get the tweet of that particular person, there's a way. I think I have some of you, Joel especially, because Joel makes a lot of good jokes on academia. So, you know, when he tweets, I get a notification. Like, Joel tweeted something.
Yeah, there's a little bell that it kind of looks like a bell, and it'll give you that notification. And that's a great point. I do the same thing. Oh, Joel didn't know that you could do that. If you go to the person's profile, again, at the top right-hand side, it just looks like a little bell, and it'll, if you click it, says you want notifications. You say, yeah, I want notifications. Every single tweet they do, or only certain ones? No, all of them. And it is a great way to follow certain people that you want to, also people that you want to connect with and remain, it's a bit of a relationship, right? So it's a way to show them I'm paying attention to what you're doing. And it's a nice way to be Twitter kind, I guess.
See, Joel, you were my first one, so imagine. You know?
Thanks, Charles.
So I think we're at time. We do want to give you guys a few minutes to stretch your legs, grab a glass of water, and then we're going to pass it over to Erica for LinkedIn.
So I think we'll come back in about 5 minutes.
Sounds good.
Thanks. All right, so we'll get started in just about 1 minute. Let everyone log back on. All right, great. So I'm going to be moving on to LinkedIn, which is a much more professional space online than Twitter. So in Twitter, you'll see much more of an overlap of people's personal and professional lives. But I think the fact that LinkedIn is basically an online CV, we start with that. And then we're connecting with other professionals, the tenor and the language is very different. And I think LinkedIn can be very powerful for connecting with folks outside of academia as well. So I do a lot of field-based research, and so I can connect with accounting practitioners, standard setters, and other people in decision-making roles in practice through LinkedIn, because it's very, very much used in the business community. So I'm just going to go straight into sharing my screen with you and showing you how to make the most out of a LinkedIn profile. And I know many of you here today have a LinkedIn profile and engage with it frequently, but I want to share with you some best practices in setting up the different parts of the profile and then how to create engagements. Let me just share, that, share screen, just give me a second. Here we go. All right. All right, so I created a brand new blank profile for today, and I only connected with one person, my real self. So I think as Leanne mentioned before, we want to choose a very professional photo and one that looks like someone that I would recognize. So I'm sure you've all been to an academic conference and you recognize someone from their faculty photo and you're like, is that their daughter, their son? You know, it's not even from the same decade. So you want to have a photo that's recent and that people would recognize you. And I use the same photo for my Twitter and my LinkedIn profile. I want to maintain a consistent online brand. Up here, this is different, that Twitter, the unique LinkedIn picture, you can have a banner photo. And you want your banner photo to say something about you. And a best practice in LinkedIn land is changing your banner photo every 6 months. So making sure that it's up to date with whatever it is that you believe in. So I recently got a job at the Smith School of Business at Queen's University. And so my banner photo right now is just a picture of our beautifully recently renovated building. And it's sort of semi-historic in the Kingston area. And so I think I'm an academic. You can find me here if you're looking for me. And I like using this. Other folks have really cool images they've made where you can put, maybe a mock-up of different abstracts that you have, or if you're a sustainability researcher, different pictures of things that come from your field work. And so you can have a banner photo that is an extension of you through an image. Now, one of the areas that I think a lot of people do, and I'm guilty of this as well, that is a bit vanilla, is in the area of their headline. So you have your name, your first name, your last name. You can decide if you want to put your credentials. I have a PhD, I have a CPA. I don't put the whole alphabet soup of my master's degrees as well. I don't think it's necessary. You can see my whole education history, but I think the fact that I'm a licensed accountant is important. It says something about me. And so I put that in my full name, but you don't have to. You can choose to put your pronouns if you want to or not. So I'll put mine. And now here's to my headline. So traditionally, folks will just have their job, assistant professor at the Smith School of Business at Queen's University. And that's totally fine. It's very clear. You'll know exactly who I am. But you have 120 characters. So there's a variety of ways that you can show your headline. So for instance, I could put assistant professor, and I could put different pieces of information about me that are maybe related to my role or maybe things that I'm an expert in. So I could put blockchain. I could put remote work. I could even, as Leanne mentioned in the Twitter section, hashtag them. So I could put CPA. I could put a variety of, these are different topics that I care about. So when you log on to, when you find me, when you search for me, you'll say, okay, Erica's an expert in these things. That's one way people do it. They just split up the different topics with this, I don't know what it's called, but it's like a vertical line. Another way that you can do it is you can make your headline something a bit more descriptive about you. So I would say one of the tips and tricks is 3 keywords plus 1 value proposition. So I would say, okay, my value proposition is that I'm an accounting scholar. with a passion for hashtag CPA education and technological disruption. That says, what do I do? I'm a scholar. What about so like for instance, in academia, we always have 3 pillars, right? Teaching, research, and service. So my service, I'm really interested in the profession, and my research, I care about technological disruption. So I invite you to play with what type of a headline do you think really speaks to your expertise and really gives people an engaging picture of who you are. So let's save that. Right, so now we have a basic profile. Now the next big section will be your summary. Sorry, I should go back here. I can add my my education, my current position. Now, with regards to education, it's a good idea to search for your actual university. So for instance, I did my bachelor's degree at McGill University. You want to have the actual picture with the image, because if people search for McGill University, then it'll have like the graduates from that school, and you'll be linked to that. So you want to have linked to the actual account for the school that you went to, and you don't have to put the year. So I can put Bachelor of Commerce. I got my first degree, but people don't need to know it was in 2008. They don't need to know how old I am or how young I am. And we all know ageism is real, both for people that are too young or too old. So you don't have to put your year unless you really want to. So I put in my education. Save. I wanted to put in my about me. So you want to put a summary of yourself. So similar to your Twitter bio, your LinkedIn summary is much longer about you. So it could be a couple of paragraphs. And I like to have, there's different sections. I want to be concise. I want to be something people could scan through, kind of read diagonally, and learn something about me. So I like to have it structured in this way. I do X. I have expertise in A, B, and C. What is the broad societal impact of my work that I care about? And I'm open to X, Y, or Z, or put my specific competencies if I have them. So for instance, if I'm like an expert in Stata and R and Python, and I want people to know that, I could put that, but I don't have any real competencies. I would put instead open to volunteering on boards or talking more about field work. So that's kind of how I think a really good summary is structured. So let's say we actually were to write that out for me based on my real life. Okay. I am an assistant professor at the Smith School of Business. And you can write this in the first person or the third person. Sometimes people say Erica is a blah. It's really up to you. Doesn't really matter. My expertise is in exploring how technological disruption impacts how professionals work. So that's my expertise. I bring over a decade of experience as a practicing CPA with the rigor of academia to solve real world problems in the accounting profession. Pardon my grammar, I would revisit this before I read it. So that would be my broad societal impact. I care about the profession. I could also put some of the activities that I'm involved in that are really important. So I regularly advise l'autorité des marchés financiers in Quebec, CPA Canada, and others on the impact of technology on the profession. I've appeared in the media in XYZ outlets. So I tell people, like, what are the cool things that I do beyond just being a teacher? These are the initiatives that I'm really passionate about, that I'm involved in. And finally, I would put at the end, open to joining not-for-profit boards, joining boards, or discussing new academic projects, whatever. But I think that sort of a structure allows you to have something that has all the punchy points without having to have language that's overly flowery, like, and kind of gets to the point. So I think if you use the structure that I proposed here, starting with, I do X, my expertise is this, what is my broad societal impact, and what am I open to? You'll have a very powerful summary. And notice you have 2,600 characters, so that's a lot of space that you can go through. Okay, what else can we put in here? What else did I want to show you here? Don't really want to care. Okay, you can put your contact information, put your location if you want. I'm a multi-location person. I work in Kingston, I live in Montreal, so I normally actually leave this blank. I just put Canada because I'm a pan-Canadian scholar, if you will. Here, there's a bunch of other profile sections that you may decide to add or not. So education is a good one. People want to know where you're from, where have you worked, and you can decide how far back you want to go, which positions are relevant. So for instance, for people like myself who worked in practice before joining academia, I have to decide how much of that I think is relevant. So I think it's relevant, you may not. You can put some skills here. So tell people, what are your core skills? So my core skills that if I wanted someone who didn't know me, I'd probably want to put something like higher education as a skill. I'd probably want to put accounting as a skill. I'd probably want to put, if I was really good at Python, which I'm not, but let's pretend I am, I could put that. So just what are the skills you have? And you can put those on your LinkedIn profile. I think it's kind of like, think of it like keywords about you. Let's see what else. Okay. Now here's some other sections. I want to show you the featured section, which I think is pretty cool. So this is something that's going to show up at the top of your profile, and you can put a link to a post, an article, link to a particular website, or add a piece of media. And it's going to show up right at the top of your page. So when I was on the job market, I put my CV, just a traditional CV that people want to be able, that people know how to read. And it had a lot of information on there. Now, one thing I could put is, for instance, I could put Accounting for Impact, because that's an initiative that's very important to me that I'm involved. So I'll click on add a link and I'll type www.accountingforimpact.org, add, and I'll put, okay, that's the title, save. So now if we go back to my profile, when people scroll, after they see what I'm all about, there's a link to something that's really important to me. So you could put maybe a PDF of your most recent article if that's important to you, or other things that you want to put front and center on your profile. Now there's a few others that I wanted to go through the rest of this profile sections under recommended here. You can add courses if you do like MOOCs or professional development that you think is important. So, I'm in blockchain. So if I did like a blockchain certification, I could put it there, or things like that. Think of professional development that you think is relevant. You could highlight that under courses. Now, recommendations are kind of cool. You can get other people to recommend you. Now, I'm not really sure how much value people ascribe to these things, because if you know the people, oh, that's their cousin, that's their friend, that's their co-author. But you can ask for recommendations and have people just say, oh, Erica's wonderful, she's great to work with. So I could ask for Leanne, Kitty, I could ask for Charles, and hopefully they would give me a nice review, and in return you can give them a recommendation as well. So that's another section you might want to think about experimenting with. All right. So volunteer experience, this doesn't have to be volunteering for the SPCA. So I put, CPA, my involvement with CPA Canada in there, the committees that I'm on. Tells people something about me. Because when you go to my profile, otherwise, you're just going to see she's an accounting academic. But who is she as a person? What else do I want? How can I give a holistic picture of myself? So I include my volunteer experience. I include my publications. You can include a link to them as well. So it's because practitioners don't necessarily know about Google Scholar, but here in one place, they can see a list of all your publications as well. Honors and awards, test scores. I don't think for any of us at our level of advancement in our careers are really relevant, but for more junior folk might be relevant. Languages, causes, and contact information. So I think these are all really valuable things that you can do. So let's just do one just to go through the example. Let's say publications, for example. So I have a publication with Emilio Boulian. So let me just go on my Google Scholar page and I'll show you what it looks like. So Google Scholar. And I look myself up. And here I am. I exist. I'm real. And where is my one with Emilio Boulian? So here's the title. I had to search because if I'm being honest, I don't remember the title of the actual publication. So that's our title. Where was it published? Accounting Education. It was published in December 2021. I'll just pick a date. I don't remember what date it was. November is fine. And add an author. So here I can tag. He's not my connection, or I can tag Emilio Boulian. And so it's really cool because you can, now your co-authors will get a notification and they can tag you as well. And it's really, it's another way to create community and boost other people as well. So I can put the URL, I can put a description of my publication as well. And so I've done that on my real profile, and I encourage you all to do that too. And so now that once I've gone through, I filled out my education, I filled out my job, I tell people about me, LinkedIn is more than just an online CV. There's ways that we can go about creating engagement. So I want to show that to you now. So there's four main ways, that you can create engagements. You can create posts. You can create online articles. You can create events. So let's start by creating a post. So, and I liked one of the tips and tricks I like to give people is to use the 4-1-1 rule. So for every one article you put promoting yourself, you put 4 promoting other things. And I think that sort of addresses the concern that social media, and especially LinkedIn, is just a place for self-promotion. And so you could elevate things about your school, about your co-authors, about causes you care about new articles you read in the paper, but not just promoting, hey, look at me, I got a new job, because that kind of gets stale very quickly and gives people the wrong impression. So let's say I want to put a post about the new CPA competency map, for example. I would say something like this. Check out Competency Map 2.0 from @CPA Canada. So I want to tag CPA Canada because they're the ones that develop the competency map, and they will get the notification on their end, and we can create some engagement for everybody. Now, one thing to be careful of, in Twitter, I can tag anybody. So I could tag Apple, I could tag Elon Musk, I could tag whoever I want. But in LinkedIn, you can only tag people that are, I think, between 2 or 3 degrees of separation from you. So you can't just tag anybody, and it's trying to be a bit more selective. So if you try to tag someone and you don't get them in the drop-down list, it's probably because they're not enough connected to your network on LinkedIn. And if I want to post something on LinkedIn, I want to have a call to action. So I want people to create engagement. So accounting educators, is this an improvement over the existing model? Or does it not provide enough guidance? Comment below. So a call to action in a LinkedIn post is really good, and that'll get people working on it. So what can I do? I can do 2 things. I can add a photo, I can add a video, I can add a document. So here I'm going to add a link to the actual latest competency map, which I happen to have saved here. Okay, competency map. And I could even, if I wanted to, add a link. And so sort of engagement data has shown that posts that have a link, an image, or an attachment, but mostly a link, get higher levels of engagement on LinkedIn than ones that don't. So I could just go to CPA Canada Competency Map 2.0. Here we go. And I will add the link to my post as well, post. And then see more, and then people could read it, comment, share it, send it, whatever. So I think that's an example I would think. And I could even, if I wanted to make it better, I could do hashtags. Now, one of the things about Twitter is once you post something, you can't change the post later, right? It's there. And if you made a typo, you have to delete it and repost if you want, or live with the typo, as I often do, because I make a lot of typos. The cool thing about LinkedIn is you can edit a post. So I can just go up here, edit post. And so I can feature it at the top of my profile the same way Leanne showed us how to pin a tweet earlier. And so I use this feature a lot. And let's say I edit it and I would add a hashtag here, higher education, save. Now next to it, it says edited. So people know that the tweet has changed. Nobody cares, but just to say, yeah, you'll know that it's been edited. Another cool feature is you can create an event and you can upload the cover image, you can put the name. So let's say accounting for impact social media event. I can put the time. Let's say it starts on next week at noon, put an end date. I can put a link, a description, connect who's going to be there. Join us online for a great event on social media engagement. And then I can invite people to if I want to. So that's actually how I learned about the work-life balance public interest section of the AAA. They have their annual meeting. And actually I saw the event online. I signed up for the event online, and then I went through the steps to sign on for the conference. So I think it's another cool way. And you could even put the Zoom link here just to get the message out when you're having these events. You can create them through LinkedIn as well. One last thing I wanted to show you over here was how to write an article. So a lot of people start blogs and, you'll get the message, this is my first blog post on my new blog, and then they forget about it. Well, if you don't want to make such a commitment to having a blog, you can make periodic articles directly through LinkedIn, and they will be tagged as part of your profile. So this is another way that you can create engagement. So I click here, write article, and it gives me the exact same layout as if I was to use like a WordPress or a traditional, blog posting type of a page. So let me show you how we could go about doing that. So I have a blog post that I already wrote. So I'm going to take the text from there, okay? So let's say I wanted to make this is one of the blog posts that I wrote during my tenure as a public scholar during my PhD. So that's my title, Will Blockchain Technology Replace Accountants? So I'll call that my headline, and I have tons of flexibility. I can make it, I could fool around with the text if I wanted to. I could upload a cover image. And here, let's say my text is blockchain is a trust machine. Okay, and let's say I want to put a link here, the same functionality I would have on a regular blog posting type of software. So I could just go up here, add a URL. My URL that I want to use is this one. Move this up because you all can't see. Type a link, apply. Let's publish this. Check out my latest article. Check out my thoughts on blockchain as a trust machine. Do you agree or disagree? So this idea that when I'm posting, I want to create engagement. I want to have this call to action. And I'm not limited in the number of characters in the same way I'm on Twitter. So I can have like 3,000 characters. I can go to town in how much detail I want to put here. Publish. And once again, I mean, it looks super professional, right? And people can add comments. It stays there forever. I'm not committed to doing it every week, or I can if I want to, but it just becomes sort of part of the archive. And so if someone looks me up, they'll have it there under my activity. They'll see I created an event, I created this post, et cetera, et cetera. So I think there's a lot of really cool functionality if we start seeing LinkedIn as a way to connect with people. But once you start getting very involved on LinkedIn, you're going to start getting a lot of DMs, a lot of connections with people, and you cannot send a message to anyone. So on Twitter, you can send a DM, a direct message to anyone who's doesn't have like a file that's an account that's locked. On LinkedIn, you can send a message only to people that you're connected to or people that have premium accounts. Or if you have a premium account, you can send what's called an in-mail. So you have to upgrade your account and then you can send messages to anyone. A way to get around that is just connect to someone. And then after you connect with them, then you can exchange with them. So how do I find people to connect to or recommendations? Go up to my network. And here I can find, right now I only have one connection. but I can find other people that to connect to here in people that groups and events, and it'll have some recommendations on people, things that I should follow, other people that I might know, recommendations and things like that. So I think that's a really good way to go about expanding your network. So let me just see if there was anything else I wanted to add, because I had a bunch of, the other thing I would say, both for Twitter and LinkedIn, be mindful about who you follow. And I say this because I might follow Donald Trump because I think I want to know what he has to say straight from the horse's mouth. But some people might perceive that as, oh, you're a Donald Trump follower. And I'm not saying following Donald Trump is right or wrong. That's up to you to decide. So it's a good idea to be mindful about who you engage with, which pages you follow, and how that ties into who you want to be. Because these online platforms are really, you're creating an online persona. And you could talk about the sociology of online identity, of digital identities. That's neither here nor there. But you want to be mindful of that. So maybe you want to follow some of the major influencers in your space that are important to you. So like if I'm in the blockchain space, I would follow the founder of Ethereum, because that tells people, okay, or I would follow, I don't know, the Blockchain Association of Canada. And so I tell people who I am by virtue of who I follow. You are the sum of the 5 people you spend the most time with. You are the sum of who you hang out with. And I think that is very true in online environments. Like, let's say, for instance, I get a lot of random people want to connect with me on LinkedIn, and I don't know who they are. And I see, oh, you have 12 mutual connections. Okay, then they're legit. Or inevitably they'll be connected with Charles Chokes. He's connected with everybody. He knows like a zillion people. So, okay, Charles is a connection with them. I will connect with them. But if I get some random invitation or desire to connect from someone I don't even have any connection to, I might think twice about whether or not I want to connect with this person on LinkedIn. And I will say also, and I see Annie Leconte on the call, LinkedIn can be a very effective place to get fieldwork participants if you do field-based research. So, when we're looking for accountants to talk to, a lot of the people we've met have been, that we've connected through have been LinkedIn. So it can be very, very effective. Even if you're doing quantitative research and you want to say, hey, let me talk to actual analysts, or I want to talk to people in the field, this can be a really, really effective technique. And when you go to connect with them, if they see that you're active on LinkedIn, you're an expert in your field, they'll be more likely to accept your connection. Let me just take a look at the chat, see if there's anything here. Should you tailor your publications or all of them? So, I don't have that many publications just yet to tailor them. Maybe this is a question more for Charles, someone who has over 60 publications, to say, do you include them all? Do you include some? Maybe there's a section on LinkedIn, you can add your website. Do I have a LinkedIn to my Google Scholar page? These are things you can think about. But for me, at this stage in my life, I include them all. I'm still looking to create volume. Okay, so let me open it up for, I've been done enough talking. I'm tired of hearing my own voice. Let's open it up to questions. See if anyone's had any really good experiences on LinkedIn that they wanted to share.
I'll ask a question,
Please.
Erica. Yeah, I wanted to ask about, if someone connects with you on LinkedIn, I think sometimes it's like a follow-up from something that you posted, so they want to connect with you, but you might not have connections with them. So like, this is something that I've struggled with. Do you accept them to grow your network, or do you not accept them because they're like, you don't know who these people are and they're like outside your network? That's something that I've like kind of struggled with, and I don't know how to manage that. So
I think that's a great question. And I don't know the answer beyond what I do is I just try to see who this person is. Like if they're a student and they're doing their master's degree in some far off place in the world, and they, have an interest in blockchain and they connect with me, that what can help is they can send you, when you try to connect with someone, you can send a personalized note. And so a lot of times they'll say, oh, hi, I'm a master's student at Lund University. I'm doing a master's thesis on blockchain. I read your work. I'd like to hear more. Then I know, okay, this person's legit. They took 2 minutes to personalize their message. I think can be very effective. Rather than, LinkedIn suggested a bunch of people for them and they just went clicking until they hit their daily maximum. So I think that's also another thing. If you want to connect with someone and you want something from them, or you want some of their time, to personalize the connection note to be able to make them say yes. Thanks, Joel. Charles, please.
Yeah, I would, I'll answer the question too. So my strategy is to accept almost every connection, no matter what, because I figure that whatever I share on LinkedIn is professional. And so the more people see it, the better. But I do get strange direct messages, supervision requests, all that stuff. So it's a bit tricky. And then sometimes I get legitimate messages that ask me for questions that say I organize a conference. I'm like, my official way of communication is email. So I don't like to chat too much on the LinkedIn, really, except for my connections. But I would share an experience. I shared this morning. I presented things on engagement and impact. And sharing your publications could be perceived as self-promotion and all that. But in fact, you are sharing not yourself or promoting yourself, you are sharing your research. One accepted article online had gotten almost 3,000 views in a day. So, it's not by sitting on the Emerald website of a journal that you get that kind of exposure, and then people ask for the papers. So I think that is a very highly beneficial. I strangely get more exposure and activities on LinkedIn and Twitter, but I think it's because I have like 3,000 connections. Honestly, Erica, you said because it connected to me, you should accept. Honestly, sometimes I don't even know my connections. So it's like,
Well, I won't use that anymore then.
It's not like a good benchmark because I accept pretty much everybody. Okay, so just saying that.
Fair enough.
And the publication thing. Honestly, I started doing it when I created my profile, and then I kind of stopped because it's a little bit of work to update. But when I have time, yeah, I think there's no reason why you shouldn't put all the publications there. Why not? There's no reason to tailor them. And we still have the problem of the not open access, like the paywall journals. So you can use ResearchGate. You can use other means to share papers, full version. So that's what I would. But I think on LinkedIn you could put them. I just didn't have the time to do it because I just created my profile and I had to fill them all, and I think I stopped at some point. So anyway. That's fine.
You know what? I think that's really good advice, because where do you hear about new research in your area? Okay, you sign up for the emails from the journals, fine, but you might not sign up for emails from every journal, and so there might be something in. I mean, I don't get the updates from ASQ, but I find the stuff in that journal really interesting. And so if Joel has a new publication in a management journal, I may not subscribe to the emails, but I find his stuff tremendously interesting. And so I like to know what he's doing. And that's how I know through social media. So I think it's a best practice in my opinion. And more journals are having their own social media accounts to another way to connect with people, to disseminate your research, especially to practitioners. I promise you, accounting academics and accounting professionals are not systematically signing up for notifications from AOS. But if I publish, here's an abstract of my latest article, this is why it's relevant to you, they might actually engage with it. And so I think making our stuff available through social media is just another way to get it out into the world. And I think, the criticism that social media is all about self-promotion, I think it's some people do it, sure. But how many times have I gone and a colleague will get a new job and I'll be like, hey, so-and-so, congratulations to the folks at Toulouse Business School. My PhD colleague will be joining you guys soon, or so-and-so won an award, and you retweet it and you say, hey, congratulations. Just Alessandro, just yesterday, Alessandro got a new position. Congratulations, Alessandro. And we were all on social media. Great job, great job, great job. So, when you create these online communities, they can be very supportive, and it's just nice, another way to hear the great things other people are doing. So thank you, Charles, for those comments. Very informative. Leanne, please.
Yeah, I'm going to bring maybe another perspective on who to follow both on LinkedIn and Twitter, I would say. I have to admit, I'm also somebody that if you send me a connect request, I just say yes. But part of that has also been a little bit strategic. And I find more so on Twitter, I will end up with people following me, I think specifically because they disagree with what I say, but I will follow them back so that I'm aware of those arguments as well. And I think what I try to do is make my personal profile strong enough that my views are clear. My my descriptors are clear. Like everybody knows I'm into sustainability. So if I'm following somebody who's not, it's probably, I hope, apparent. It's not that I necessarily agree with what they say, but I try to broaden, I guess, my own little bubble of not just surrounding myself with people saying the same things. Like I want to hear what those other arguments are. And especially in a world where a lot of this stuff is becoming really divisive, I find it really interesting. But I will say you do have to beware, because there are people, this is where you can get some of the trolling, right, of people really pushing you and disagreeing with you, and just, I would say, don't engage with those. But it's good awareness. And I'm in a maybe a bit more of a controversial, for some people, area. So that works for my field, that works for my area quite well. The other thing I wanted to agree with you on was LinkedIn as a tool for qualitative research in particular. We did some research and we're able to get directors on boards, which, is supposedly really difficult. But through LinkedIn and through connections and, mutual introductions, we were able to get those interviews. So I think there are a lot of really tangible, practical research benefits as well to connecting with people and interesting people that you don't necessarily meet all the time. We had a conference recently at my university, and I met people in the little, breakout rooms. And as soon as I was chatting with them, I thought, oh yeah, I'm going to connect with you on LinkedIn. So I would immediately send them an invite as a way to stay connected and keep it top of mind that we just talked. And I thought what you said was pretty cool. So I think that's another great way to use LinkedIn.
Claudia, are you raising your hand? Go for it, Claudia, unmute yourself.
Can I ask you something really perhaps technical? I'm not sure. I want to associate myself with my LinkedIn profile, and I select the link and put for example, in an announcement, and then I go there and it says profile not found. Is it because I'm not with my LinkedIn account active when I search for it? Do you understand?
So you went and you're in your own profile and you tried to create a post, or you tried searching yourself on Google?
Okay, I'll share with you.
Yeah, sure, please.
What I mean, because it's like this. I tend, when I look for this, to go in and see whether this is very technical.
That's weird. I see what you mean. You don't exist. Claudia, what do you mean you don't exist?
You can have access, you see?
No, I don't. It says this profile doesn't exist.
Strange, isn't it? Because I do exist.
I know, I see you, I believe you. That is very, very strange.
And sometimes people tell me, no, I've been there and I've seen you. And when I go there, sometimes I see myself, and some other times it says profile not found. And I wonder, is it because
Claudia, I think because you put the numbers after your name, but if you go there, I think it's you, right? If you remove the --364 number, it looks like, and I guess that's a Brazilian colleague, I don't know. So I don't think the profile name should have those numbers after your name.
So it's, I can show you what that is. So just give me a second. Let me share my screen again. I'm going to show you guys a feature that I meant to show you that I didn't, but so let me just show you something. Here we go. Okay, if I go to my profile over here, and here's my profile, merci beaucoup. Edit public profile and URL. So right over here, it'll show you, this is what other people see, whether other people log on to me. I can personalize my public URL. So I could just make it Erica Pimentel 100, because I'm sure it's already Erica Pimentel saved. And so it's much easier for me to send it to people, for them not to make a mistake. I can edit sorry, go back. Here we go. I can edit what is visible to other people. So who sees what, who sees my photo? What do they see? What does the public see about me? Well, only LinkedIn members, only my network. And so, you can decide what you want other people to see based on how connected to you they are. But also, to Claudia's point, you might want to personalize your URL so it's easy to send to people as well. So maybe, Claudia, that the public URL that you're using maybe not be accurate, may not be 100% correct. Maybe something to check out.
Okay, because I do need, yeah. Thank you so much. Because
Yeah, no problem. Where are you from, Claudia? What part of the world are you in?
Porto, Portugal.
Oh, well, you can tell by my last name. My father's from San Miguel.
Oh yes, I thought so, but one never knows.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, Alan Teixeira from the International Accounting Standards Board. Teixeira is my surname, but he's from New Zealand.
Ah, cool. Very cool. Charles, did you want to add something?
Yeah, what Leah said is very relevant as well. As I mentioned, I got some more engagement on LinkedIn, but in terms of like tension that you can have, I don't know. We are in the area, Leanne and I and others here are on sustainability accounting. So we have this huge debate on this sustainability standard setting. And I have seen the post from Professor Robert Eccles, for example, Bilbao Interacting. Some of the comments come to the point where it becomes a public debate. It has become I earned actually, thanks to that, this article by Bob Eccles that I'm a contemporary critic of, put an article on Forbes. So yes, it's not so pleasant, but on the other hand, there's one thing about social media being sharing research and celebrating, but sometimes you also have to have the tough conversations to engaging with people. And some people then, want to talk to you offline, on a one-to-one basis. And I think that's a way to make impact as well, because it's if you're just gonna have a conversation within the journals, by the time that it is published, it's not gonna be active. Whereas the social media is much more instantaneous. I even use screenshots of some of the comments that sustainability ESG aspect, and I take screenshot of comments because they are very telling. It's not just like trolling or anything. It's actually well constructed, well argued, well documented, and you make so much connection. So I would agree with what Ian said about engaging and the troll you can ignore, but sometimes you can have serious debate about the topics.
I mean, it's who you are in person. Like in real life, I'm a very non-confrontational person. So I'm not going to become a confrontational person online. Like I spoke to the National Post. I speak to them a lot. And I said some things about blockchain in the context of the Ottawa convoy, and the Bitcoin maximalists like took me to task on Twitter. And I was just like, I'm not going to engage with these people because I'm not going to bring them to the middle or to any other perception. Or like I had written an article there was an article about me done by my university, and someone put something in the comments. And so I got an email from marketing, why don't you engage with this person? We could create an online conversation. And I answered them back. I'm like, no, I know this person. They've tried to come at me on different things that I've done, and I'm not giving them I'm not putting any more air in their tires. And so I think your point is well taken, that sometimes you have to defend the causes you believe in, but sometimes it's just, not worth your energy.
Sometimes I love it when you disagree with something, like investor perspective, sustainability. So you make that one little comment and you get actually more likes on your comment than the actual post. Then you get,
right? Yeah.
because people like read the comment as well, and then they say, yeah. So some people are not very good at posting, but they react a lot, like and support.
Amazing. Yeah, thanks, Mario. So any more practical questions about using LinkedIn, about the functionality, about experiences that you've had, questions?
I think you should ask whether everybody's going to create a Twitter account.
Yeah, first of all, when you go home after this, or if you're probably already at home, go create a Twitter, go create a LinkedIn, and connect with us. Please do.
Connect with Accounting for Impact and all 6 of us for now. That would be a good start. And then we'll connect you with more.
I just saw Claudia add me. So you exist on LinkedIn. I was able to accept her connection. Absolutely connect with us, and we will continue the conversation online. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Erica, I have a question for you on LinkedIn. Obviously, we as academics, you're going to get requests that do come from everywhere. Do you have any best practice tips? Like if you want to connect with somebody, I know you mentioned about putting little notes. I often get requests that don't have notes. Is there anything that people can do to kind of best practice those notes for connections?
I think be very clear about what the ask is. So I get a lot of emails, connections through LinkedIn requests by master's students who are doing a thesis on blockchain and the role of blockchain for accounting. I think that the master's thesis has been done 800 times now around the world. And can I have an hour of your time? And it's like, well, an hour of your time times 800 people, that's a whole year, you know? So it's not what's in it for you. I think when I'm going out and I'm trying to get research participants, I'm a little bit more like, what's in it for you? You know, I'm looking to talk to accounting professionals about X, and, you know, I can inform you my research has found Y. And I try to make it, when I'm going to contact someone, I always try to say what's in it for them as well. I don't expect people's time for free. I want to like teach them something, or I might give them a link to, here's an article that we wrote, here's a conversation piece that might inform you. I think that's really important when you're dealing with professionals. When people come to me and they're students, my expectation barrier is lower. But at one point you just have to say, I only have, you know, an hour a week to give to strangers. And at some point you just have to be mindful of your time, and you can say no, and you don't have to feel bad, because, you know, at one point people are going to just keep asking you. I also find that it's effective to follow up a second time with people, but if they don't get back to me after a second time, then I don't hound them 3 and 4 times. I don't think that's very effective either. Yeah. What about you, Leanne? Do you get a lot of requests for connection?
I
Strangers?
do. And yeah, I do. I have to say, I really appreciate the personalized note.
Yes.
I like
yes.
when people say something, you know, I saw you here, or we spoke
Yes.
there. And I think it's a good little memory trigger for me as well, especially if there's been a little bit of distance and time between us. I ask my students to connect with me. I'm actually really fascinated to see what they do as the years go on and how they've been doing in their careers. So I will talk about this in class as well, to say like, hey, connect with me. And then I've had students reach out years later and say, well, listen, I'm thinking of, you know, changing roles. Do you know anybody in this field? And I can try to connect them. So as an educator as well, I think it can be a really helpful tool. So, you know, talk to your students, get them to connect with you.
Well, I would totally agree with, I forgot to mention this, the connection with students, especially, I mean, undergrad also, but like MBAs, I teach MBAs. Some of them, sometimes you lose touch because, you know, they don't necessarily tell you, but on LinkedIn, you can follow them. I've had recently a chance to be sort of interviewed for something. She works at a bank for sustainability initiatives, and they love it. I mean, even during class, I don't mind putting myself connecting with them, you know, while you're teaching them. I get a lot of requests. Even when a guest lecturer, like I was in France last fall, I come out of the guest lecture, I put my LinkedIn profile, and I had like 15 requests. I just accepted them all. Those students, you know, will eventually work in management in businesses, and you make this connection that some of my best students, I mean, became like really, you know, pretty well connected. So I would encourage you to have your LinkedIn profile shared even with your students. Yeah.
And this can come full circle, right? Like
Right.
sometimes these are the connections you end up making down the road to open doors for, like, if you are doing qualitative research, interviews, access, case studies. And if they've been following you, you've built that trust over the years of like, I am a real person. I care about this stuff. Introduce me to, you know, your boss, their boss, whoever. So, you know, it's all connected, right? I think that's the biggest thing with social media. It doesn't have to take a lot of effort, but if you put a little bit of time into it, the payoff can be really, really big. In a world that doesn't always make it easy for everybody to have equal access to all of this stuff. And I think in that way, social media can be somewhat of an equalizer, because you can connect directly with people and kind of bypass some of the barriers that get put up sometimes for various groups in society.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, I think we might be able to wrap up 4 minutes early. I think we've covered everything we wanted. And if there aren't any other questions, I really appreciate engaging with you. And as we mentioned, please connect with us on social media, or if you run into any trouble as you're creating your own profiles, send us an email, send us a DM. We look forward to continue to connect with you. So have a wonderful day, everybody.
Maybe we should, thank you, both of you. We should announce the next event at the conference, and also in September. You can check on our website. So in June 10 and 11, the Canadian Accounting Association, we have 2 sessions. again by Leanne and Erica and myself for the first part. And then in September, we will have a workshop on writing for a broader audience, right? By Sherry. So,
Op-eds, how to write an op-ed.
yeah, so you'll hear from that. I'm sure you have some mailing list, but again, thank you.
Great. Thanks so much, everybody. Have a great day.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.